today we have our special guest. We're interviewing the Wendell family, Mia and Kari Wendell. Ladies, how are we doing today?
Great. Doing good.
Awesome. All right, so we'll talk. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Kari, with your playing days and coaching days. Mia, obviously coming off of Yale hockey and all your success there. Before we get into that, though, Kari, we have 12 days of school left with children. Are you excited about summer? I don't think people realize that teachers are more excited about summer than the students are.
Well, I'll just hit you where it hurts. This is my first year teaching high school, and I only have 3 days left with students.
And this is why I don't like Kari. Kari worked with me for the last, how long did we work together? Was it 4
years?
3 years? 3
Two
years?
fun
4
years.
years? And it was, Mia, can I tell you, like, it was so much fun having lunch duty with your mom. Like, I would rather teach another class than have lunch duty. I hate lunch duty. But going for lunch duty with your mom, I knew there was always going to be laughter. There was always going to be some kind of joke made, and it was just going to make the time like fly by. We're so glad that you had the opportunity that you have to go to another school, but damn it, we miss you.
Yeah, I do miss it there. It's fun.
All right. So quickly, let's kind of get into it. Now, Mia, you just came off your 4th year at Yale. First of all, congratulations on graduating. You were telling me earlier, you graduated with a degree in psychology. First of all, like, how does it feel to be done? Like, has it kind of set in yet? When was graduation for you guys? I know my daughter graduated from Syracuse, and that was two weeks ago, I think, 3 weeks ago. When was your guys' graduation?
I think it was 3 weeks ago. May 19th was the actual day. So what is that? Okay. 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Sounds about right. So how does it feel to finally, does it feel like it's been 4 years? I know for mine, it like flew by.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of it, it felt like it had been 10. I was kind of ready for it to be over. But right now, I'm still it's still summer. I'm still training. It's still kind of the same routine. I think once the fall comes around and I don't go back to New Haven, it'll definitely be different. But it hasn't really set in yet.
I'm telling you, well, congratulations. It's quite an accomplishment. Not only that, to go to Yale. I mean, that's fantastic. Mom, how does that feel to have a Yale graduate, like a Yale alumni? Like, be honest, do you kind of brag a little bit?
Sometimes sometimes people take the wrong way when I say she goes to Yale. So I usually just feel them out first. But she's really talented and smart at the same time. So get your brains from her dad. I try.
Now, was Yale always like one of the top schools that you want? Obviously, it's a top school, but was that always like the goal? Like, I want to go to Yale.
No. So basically, the rules used to be different for recruiting. And I honestly hadn't given a thought to college yet because I was a freshman in high school. And that's kind of when teams started reaching out to me, which now you're not allowed to do that. You have to wait till junior year. But I was a freshman, so I was just kind of like, oh, like, what is this? Yale is reaching out to me. They want me to play for them. Like, what? And then a couple other schools ended up reaching out. And so I went on a visit like soon after they had reached out. And I just loved the campus there and I loved the atmosphere. So then, talking went on and other schools came in and whatever. But I had always been like, I really loved Yale. So then I think later that year, maybe June of my freshman year in high school, they had asked me to commit. Or actually, I think they asked me to come in April. My parents didn't let me. They said I had to wait and make sure. And then I think June came around and we all went back to Yale for a visit. And everyone was kind of like, okay, yeah, we got to do this. So then I committed, verbal commitment. So then after that, it was set, but it wasn't because I still had to get the grades and keep training and everything. But yeah.
Oh, for sure. Mom, what was the one thing about that final visit that really set it for you? Like, okay, that's it. I can see my daughter going here. Was there one moment?
Well, we had gone to a few colleges before, and there was one that I really enjoyed, one that I liked, that I kind of really wanted her to go to. And then she kept telling me she'd already been there with my husband previously to Yale. And they just kept saying, just wait, Mom, just wait. You'll feel it. And when we got on campus, you look for, as a mom, I'm looking for safety issues, high bushes where people, all the crazy stuff that moms think about with their daughters. And really, you couldn't find anything wrong with it. Like, it was kind of bizarre. If you've ever looked it up online, it looks like a Harry Potter movie. And it's almost like being in a fantasy. And the education right there, I was more concerned about the academics, which, I mean, you can't get any better. So.
I was going to say. That's fantastic. And it was funny, like, we were going around the trips around the same time with Sarah, and the only trip, like, we visited Boston College, we visited Boston University, Fordham. We visited about 5 or 6 different schools. The only school visit that I wasn't able to go on was the Syracuse one. And of course, where does she end up going to school? Syracuse. But it's right. Like, it's just and that happened to be the first college that she went to see. And when she went on campus, when she was walking around and had the tour, I was at a track and field meet, and I don't know, maybe 30 minutes into their tour, I'm getting texts from them. Oh my God, I love it. Oh my God, it's great. Oh my God, it's amazing. And I'm texting back like, all right, that's good. But remember, we got 4 more colleges to see. And it was almost like dragging her to the other schools when she already had her mind made up. She's like, I'm going to Syracuse. I don't know why we're doing this. So, but it's just a fun process. And like you said, when you know. So that's fantastic. Now, Mia, I was just looking through your bio a little bit online. I know a phys ed teacher does homework, shocker. But so it says like you started off with the Buffalo Regals. Did you start off right away as a goaltender, or did you kind of like happen to fall into it? Like, I know my brother actually played goaltender, but he actually started off as a defenseman, and it just happened where they needed a goaltender, and he kind of begrudgingly did it and just kind of took off from there. Was it something that you always wanted to play goal?
Yeah, no, I actually just started playing hockey normal as a player. I was 6 years old. And then I think when I was like 7, I was like, I want to try being a goalie. And my parents were like, no way, you're not doing that. Nope. So they said no for like a year, I think. And then by the time I was 8, I had gotten on a new team and they didn't have a goalie. And it was still house league. Like, it wasn't very like intense. And me and another girl were like, okay, well, we want to try goalie. So they were like, all right, you guys can split this season. We'll see how it goes. And the other girl's name was Alyssa and my name was Mia. So they said, okay, Alyssa's going to start because her name starts with an A. And so she's going to start as goalie. And she played 1 game, absolutely hated it. And so then I was like, all right, my turn. I'll go in. And I played and I never turned back.
That's true.
Did it take some convincing to mom? Like, mom what finally got you on board with allowing her to do it?
Well, her father and I said, fine, only half the games. That's fine. That's the deal we made. And Alyssa, I think, actually cried and said how much she hated it. So we said, okay, just this season. That's it. No more. You know, if there's only one, you have to compete with. It's one position. You know, there's not many of them. So and that didn't actually fly, and she stayed forever.
Do you remember your first game? Like, do you remember what you were thinking when you went into that first game into net?
No, I don't remember it. I remember when I was like 9 years old trying out for like a 12U team, and I thought it was so cool, but that's like the first memory I have.
That's awesome. And like I said, it's kind of a unique position. Like, if you're playing forward or defense, you know, you get subbed in and out, whatever. You might play 10 minutes one game, 20 minutes the next game. As a goalie, it's all or nothing. I mean, obviously, unless you get pulled, but it's all or nothing. You're either playing all 60 minutes or you're playing 0 minutes. Did you ever, like, I don't know, I don't want to say annoyed, but was that kind of tough to get used to? Like, if you're playing all 60 minutes of one game, maybe for 3 or 4 games, and then you have to sit out just for a rotation for a game or whatever to get the backup in. Was that kind of a unique experience?
Yeah, I mean, once high school hit and we really started like rotating, also like in high school, once I really started getting into hockey, because I feel like at first I didn't mind. I was like, yeah, I'll be the backup. Like, who cares, right? Then once high school rolled around, when it was not my turn to play and we were rotating every other game, I'd be like, oh, man, you know, like, it's like, but you get used to it. I mean, sometimes the games that you do play are so intense that you need that break. I mean, even if you don't want it mentally. But especially like for me in high school and when I played on the Regals, my goalie partner and I were super close. So when splitting with her, I was like, all right, yes, I do want to play, but I also want her to play because I see how hard she works. And she was such a great person that I was like, I'm not going to take that away from her. So I was like, in my head, as long as I got the important games, I didn't care, right?
How important is that to have tandem with you? Jackson, right? He wants to step in. What was the dog's name again? Jackson,
yeah.
Yep. Jackson's just commenting, you know.
Yeah.
But no, how important is it to have that goaltender partner with you? Like somebody that can push you at practice, somebody that you, like you said, you're obviously competitive. You want to be in there, but at the same time, you want to see your teammates shine too. How important is that for a goaltender?
I think it's really important. And I also think it's important to have that person who you care about. And as long as they're, you know, being okay and like treating you right and having the right attitude, like having that tandem is super amazing because when you're going through something, they can help you. You're not afraid to show any weakness, or like if you're saying, oh, I'm not very good at this skill, like it's not like something you feel bad about. They can help you get better and stuff like that. So I think that's really important. And especially like when it comes to coaching, a lot of the time, and this happened in college and even before college, coaches don't really pay attention to the goalies, right? I mean, we're just kind of there to get shot at, and that's not how we feel, right? But that's how everyone sees us. So once you can get kind of annoyed, you could say, or like it can get tiring, or you could feel like, hey, they're not even thinking about us, and having someone to kind of vent to about that and them being like, yeah, I know, that makes it a lot better than if you were on your own, right?
100%. And I coach soccer, and Kari, I know you coach soccer. She's right. Sometimes the goaltenders just, somebody go shoot on her, or you get 2 or 3. Just take shots on each other. You'll be fine. We'll let you know when we need you in net. It's a tough position to play. Kari, did you ever play goal in soccer? I know that's
I actually did.
Position. I was a midfield. Did you really?
I did. I played.
That was the one position I never wanted to play.
Yeah, I played some goalie at Kenmore East, and I played at NCCC. I didn't play goalie at every game though, and then I played at Buff State, but I don't think I was a goalie there. I was too short by then, but yeah.
Did you kind of give her some, especially when she first started getting into hockey goaltending, did you give her some of your perspective? Obviously soccer is a little bit different, but did you kind of give her some of your experience and stuff with that?
Well, it's funny because I'm so old now that when back in the day, women's sports was a lot different then, but now I think it's so much more competitive as she started to get really good. I kept saying to her, if you're really looking to do something with this, the goalie is only one position. It's so hard to market yourself as taking one spot. Whereas, a forward, you need 3 of them, you know what I mean? So I kind of was like, are you sure? This is it. And I know there's only one of you. And she was set on it, and that was it. And, she, I think, actually plays much better when she's under pressure, like penalty shots. That's my perspective as mom. But so I knew the pressure part of it, being the only one, wasn't the issue. And, goalies have a special mentality. She had what it took. She likes things being thrown at her. When she was softball player, she played catcher too. So apparently she likes things being thrown at her face.
Now, as a coach, like I know even my daughter got into basketball and cross country, and watching her basketball games, there were times I'd have to sit on my hand and be like, all right, let the coaches do what they got to do. Let them do what they got to do. Did you find that kind of hard being a coach, where you sometimes had to sit on your hand and be like, nope, she's in good hands. Let them do, like, don't be that parent. Well, I would have done this. I would have done this. If I was the coach, I would have done that.
Good thing I didn't play hockey. So that wasn't an issue because I didn't know that much about it. Her travel coach is probably one of the best coaches, I think, that could have ever coached her. Pushed sometimes to the point where I'm like, he is pushing too far. Maybe I need to talk to him. I'm like, no, I can't do that. And that's kind of when you teach your kids to, they have to advocate for themselves. So I kept, she learned how to have a voice, but thankfully I didn't play hockey. And if she is in goal, the games were far worse to watch. So I would just sit at the other end by myself in my own little spot. I didn't even sit with my husband. I think I only had one time where I said something. It was deep in Canada, and, some dad stood up and said, get the goalie, she's down. And I literally stood up in the middle of the stands, turned around, pointed at him, and I said, shut up and sit down. These are kids. And I literally lost my mind. And all the parents from the other team thanked me and apologized for him. And I was like, what did I just do? So I don't sit near the fans anymore if she's in net. Nope.
Yeah. And I mean,
Mama Bear.
That's the one thing. And, Mia, you can attest to,
Oh, you're clear.
Some parents just get way out of control. They just get way out of control. Some parents are like, oh my God, this is like game 7 of the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah.
Did we lose you?
Sorry, we lost you there.
But no, some parents just, no, I was just going to say some parents just get way out of control. Some parents are like, oh my God, this is game 7. This is the Stanley Cup finals. What? And you're like, dude, this is 10-year-olds out there. Mia, as a player, do you have you ever seen that happen? Whether it's happened to your teammates or the opposing team? Have you come across that?
Definitely. I feel like in the games, I haven't noticed it. Maybe on the bench, I've seen a couple things. There's been some crazy parents that of teammates that I've played with. So obviously, like, you see that firsthand, and I don't know, sometimes crazy things happen on the bench with parents and whatever. And, you know, I've had some teammates who actually went really far with hockey, and I'm like, your dad is actually insane. I'm not sure how that happened. But yeah, I mean, I don't let it affect me because I just play the game. And if they want to fight about it, they can fight about it. It's really not that deep in the long run. It's just a game that we like to play. And if the parents are having an opinion or freaking out about it, then that's their own problem. They're not on the ice. They don't know what's happening. So I don't pay much attention to it.
I know for me, one time during, I think this was Sarah's 9th grade JV basketball game. One time in the stands, I thought it was a bad call by the referee. And I just was like, are you kidding me? Sure enough, Sarah looked right at me, like gave me the death stares. And I'm like, yep, sorry. And like for the rest of the day, I can't believe, like, I made one comment. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, but you're right. It's just, especially as a coach, and Kari, I'm sure you've dealt with those parents as coaches throughout the year, that you just get in on, well, my kid's not playing. Well, my kid should be, like, stop. There are other kids on the team just besides your kid. And this is 7th grade soccer. Nobody's getting recruited by the MLS or by the English Premier League at a 7th grade modified soccer game. Like, chill out.
I also feel like a lot of the times, like, the kids are embarrassed by their parents. They don't even feel the same way. They're like, Dad, stop overreacting, or they'll be apologizing, you know, to the teammates or to the other team. And it's like, well, that just makes you feel bad for the kid, right?
Yeah, true.
Now, Kari, did you ever have an incident, I guess, with the parent afterwards? Like, did you ever have, like, parents, whether during the game or after the game, well, why isn't my kid playing? Well, like, did you ever have to deal with any of that stuff as a coach?
To be honest, as soon as you started talking about this, I'll never forget, I was coaching soccer, and I think it was like 6th grade or 5th grade soccer. And we had a kid, bad asthma, but he was a fantastic player. Probably 95 degrees, 100% humidity. And I took him off the field just to get a break. He was clearly winded, and his dad is screaming, don't take him out. You can't win without him. I mean, to the point where he wouldn't stop. And he actually got ejected from the game. And they said, you can't step foot near this field. So he drove his car through the grass, through the parking lot, and parked it right at the corner, not right by the corner flag, to watch the game. And they said, you can't be here. And he said, no, you said I can't step foot on the field. And he drove on it. And at that point, they were like, don't get out of your car. We're calling the police. But it was crazy. It was like 5th or 6th grade soccer. It was insane. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yep.
That, like, what do you do? Like, I would feel horrible for the kid. What do you do with the other kids on the team? Like, how do you explain that?
That's not appropriate. So yeah, the kid was mortified. He was mortified, but hey, yeah.
That's just, the sad thing is, it's becoming more and more like that in sports.
It is.
Mia, doesn't that make you want to coach when you get older?
Yeah.
All right. So with your 5 years at the Regal, well, first of all, how old were you when you first started with the Regals?
I was in 8th grade, so 13? Is that 13 or 14?
She played for Amherst before that.
Yeah, but I was in 8th grade when I went to the Regals. I think you're 13. Are you 13?
I think so, yeah.
13 or 14.
And for those who don't know, like, the Regals, that's like a pretty high level travel team, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, they play in the Canadian Women's Loop.
I don't know if they do anymore, but my team did.
Yeah.
So first of all, how did it feel like making the team? And just talk a little bit about those 5 seasons playing with them.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I ended up going over there because I was playing softball with some of the girls, and the coaches had always kind of asked if I wanted to play for them. And I was just kind of set with where I was, and I was like, no, I don't think so. But it is a higher level than where I was. I was playing tier 2 hockey at Amherst, and Regals is tier 1, which is like the highest league in New York. So then eventually I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I really like hockey. I want to go to college for hockey. So I think I need to move up a little bit. And I loved it. I mean, it was my best experience hockey-wise, I would say, just going over there. And at first it was bumpy. Like, anytime you transition, it's going to be rocky. I remember my first game, I let in like 5 goals, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. I shouldn't have come on on this team, like blah, blah, blah. And, you know, then you get used to it, you get better. And I really loved the girls. Like, I think I was close with every team that I was on there. And it was mostly the same girls moving up together. So it was a lot of the same people all 5 years. And then here and there, we would get people, lose people, but the core stayed the same. And I just loved it. Like, I think the competition was great and just the mentality was great. I really loved my coaches. So it was good. Yeah. Our first season, we were all right. And then by my junior year, we ended up going I think my freshman year of high school, we went to nationals in Michigan. We didn't make it my sophomore year. And then my junior year, we went to nationals in California, and that was awesome. That was such a good experience. We went to Anaheim. We played it was a brand new facility. I don't know if it's the Ducks practice facility or what, but it had like 6 rinks and crazy locker rooms. It was super nice. So that was awesome. And then my senior year, we ended up losing early, I think, which it didn't even matter because COVID happened my senior year anyways. So we wouldn't have been able to go anywhere. But yeah, I think Regals, I mean, I loved the Regals. I loved my teammates. I loved the coaches. And I was the starter pretty much. I mean, like I said before, it was a rotation, but I ended up getting a lot better at hockey there. And I ended up earning, you know, the important games and playing in nationals and everything like that. So it really worked out well for me. That is the reason I literally went to Yale, because of the Regals. I wouldn't have made it as far as I did without them.
That's fantastic. And I mean, Mom, talk about just watching her go through all of this experience and like getting to, like, I don't know, especially going to all these road games. Like, did you get a chance to see a lot of the games with her and travel a lot with her, or was it something that she had to kind of go and you couldn't make all of the games? Like, talk a little bit about just your experience as seeing that from a parent's point of view.
So my other 2 daughters didn't play a winter sport, so it kind of really worked out to our advantage. So I think her father and I made just about every game, unless one of the other girls had something, then we would split. But for the most part, they play. The good thing with girls hockey is their games are Saturdays and Sundays. So we would leave either really early Saturday and drive to Canada, depending how far. We might leave Friday night. And then she had practice in Canada on Thursday nights. So to be honest, we made just about all of them. So, which is really cool. It's fun to watch. Another thing too with the Buffalo Regals too, it was a great group of parents. That makes a difference for us. You know, here you're spending so much time with these people. It can really make or break it. But great. I mean, the majority of us are still friends. We all pretty much talk. So, you know, that made it so much better having that core group of friends. So
that's awesome. Now it was a team just like full of girls from the Western New York area, correct?
Yeah, they had a girl from Florida at one point,
a couple from Rochester. Once we started getting good, like later in high school, people would come and travel to play with us, but not too far. The one girl from Florida was kind of random. That was only for one season. She would just come to tournaments. And then my junior and senior year, I think we had like 2 or 3 girls from Rochester on the team, but that's not too far.
Yeah, a couple from Utica. Actually, there were a few from Utica. Yeah. And they would drive every Thursday night and every weekend. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And now, was it like, I know you have, is a full roster usually like 18 plus 2 goaltenders, or was it a little bit more of a heavier roster? Do you remember?
That actually sounds right.
I don't remember, but I want to say we usually had 4 lines. So what's that, 12?
I think we usually had 20.
Yeah, we usually had about 20 girls, I think.
That's pretty good.
And how was the goaltender race with that? Did it ever get like, not to call anybody out, whatever names, but did you ever get into a situation, not necessarily with the Regals, but any level, where you had like, I guess, animosity with another goaltender or with your backup or any other players? Like, were you ever in that situation where it's like this just isn't going to work? Like, this girl doesn't like me, whatever, we just don't mesh. Did you ever run into a situation like that?
Not when I was in high school. I will say when I got to Yale, it was hard because there was actually a goalie in my class year, and she was European. And so when we first got together, I mean, I went into school thinking I was going to play a lot, you know, and that didn't end up happening. And she did play a lot. And so I think there was issues there. Like, maybe some jealousy from me, but also her being European, she's super blunt, and I didn't do well with that at first. I didn't understand it, right? Now I do. Now we're really good friends. But at first, it was definitely a bumpy road. And seeing her play and me not getting to play, that was tough. So I think there was a lot of back and forth there. And I don't think she really looked at it from my perspective until probably junior year, right? But yeah, that was a little bit of a rough patch, but it ended up working out really well. I think with time, anything can get resolved. So yeah, I'd say that was probably my worst experience with a goalie partner, and it wasn't that bad, but
that was actually probably the hardest thing for her dad and I, because here she goes, she's at the top of the list for one of the best goalies in the area. She goes to college, to one of the best colleges, and she doesn't play right away. And this stinks, mama claws come out and you want to blame somebody, but you got to remind yourself, trust the process. She's in college now. You can't say a thing. This is her deal, not ours. So that was probably the most difficult thing for her dad and I. That was rough, but I think it worked out. Then I had to train myself. She's getting an education from Yale. She's getting an education from Yale, so.
I was going to say, now, first of all, that's a great mature way to handle it. And I don't think you see a lot of that where, like you said, you built a friendship with her after a while. You both saw each other's point of view. That's a great attitude to see. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of times, especially with the goaltenders, it can be very competitive. Like your mom was saying earlier on. I know there, with my brother, there's some goaltenders to this day. He still has I don't want to talk about that guy. I don't want to talk about that guy. But it can be a very competitive situation. Now, even just talking about that a little bit, going from being such a high level goaltender in high school all the way through to get to Yale, did you ever get to a point where you thought about transferring? Where you thought about, well, maybe Harvard, maybe Stanford, maybe somewhere else? Did you ever get to that point about transferring?
Yeah. Definitely, I would say my freshman year, I thought about it. And then kind of after getting to know everyone and everything's super new and exciting freshman year, I was like, no, I'm not. I need to stay. I need to get the experience. And I also kind of had the hope of, well, if I get this much better, maybe I'll end up playing, blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of just a small thought. And then junior year, I really thought about transferring because I didn't end up playing it all junior year. And I was like, this is BS. I worked so hard. I got so much better, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, well, the only place I would probably consider transferring to would be Harvard because I can't top a Yale education. Not saying that Harvard's better. They're not better. But in current society, it could run alongside the, prowess of Yale education, right? But yeah, that was kind of my only thought. And then, when you really think about it without emotion and without the anger of not playing, and I thought about all the friends that I have at Yale, the teammates that I made, I couldn't do it. There's no way. And I can't leave that school. The experiences that I had there were amazing. So yeah, I would say freshman and junior year were definitely my top picks for transferring, but it never ended up happening. And I'm glad it didn't. It wouldn't have made sense, and I wouldn't have gotten the degree so hard for, because let's face it, the school was super hard and I got through it. So yeah, it would have been a waste for sure.
And we saw it too. You could see her attitude junior year just change, and we're like, what is happening? But she's got to figure it out herself. And then she came out senior year. It hit the gym hard, totally a mental 180, back on track. She won the coach's award. She was, he said, probably one of the best teammates she's seen ever. And that was without playing a lot, and she won the coach's award. So pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. It just goes to show a maturity. And I don't know, maybe goaltenders have that maturity level, because I don't know if I could have handled that.
Get it from her maturity from me, Larry.
Oh yeah, I've seen your. In fact, Mia, did your mom ever tell you the story about another teacher's car in the parking lot?
No.
Carrie, do you want to tell that story?
We didn't steal it because she was driving it and left her keys in it and ran into a store. Somebody from the back seat,
I don't know who that person was.
Kari Wendell might have said, wouldn't it be hilarious if we moved her car? So somebody in the passenger seat, Larry, said, that's a great idea, and ran around and we moved her car. We didn't steal it because she left.
We didn't steal it.
So.
We borrowed it.
Cool.
We moved it.
Yeah,
But-
so I obviously get my maturity from my mother. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was great. I think even your mom said, she was like, "That's the fastest I've seen you run from out of the car and sprint." I'm like, yes. Now I wanted to move the car all the way to the back of the parking lot, so I like sped all the way back, and then they're like, "No, we got to move it close." So I sped to the front. But that was a lot of fun. Was that end of the year, or was that just during like some random professional development?
Well, one or the other, but I think it was towards the end of the year. It was hilarious. It was my first year teaching there too. So much fun.
That's what happens when teachers have too much time in the day.
That's right.
Now, you talked a little bit too about just training, getting into the gym, getting into the good habits, really busting your butt. And I mean, that's the one thing that I've noticed from high school soccer, high school sports in general, guys and girls, that it's just there's so much more off-season training than there was. I mean, back when I played, it was all right, a month or two before the season. I mean, you always did other sports to keep yourself in shape, but usually maybe a month before the season started, you'd start running, you'd work on some ball drills or whatever, nothing big. But now it's, you got to go to the best camps. You got to play in the best travel teams. You got to get personal coaching. You got to hit the gym memberships. You got to do this. Like, it's almost like a full-time job. I mean, Kari, we'll go to you first. Like what differences do you notice just from seeing off-season conditioning from when you played to when your daughter's playing?
Gosh, from when I played to now, a huge difference. I mean, you had one sports season and that was it. So, I played soccer, basketball, and softball. And in the summer, I played softball and nothing ever interfered because that's what you did. Now, it was funny because my kids have all played travel softball. That was their number one sport, except for Mia, but she probably could have played college softball also. You almost are forced to choose. And I do know that Mia junior year, one of the years she tried out for varsity softball, and the coach was great. He looked right at her and said, "Look, if you miss a game, you sit two. If you miss a practice, you sit a game. How much is hockey going to take up?" And she said, "It's going to interfere." And he said, in fairness to the other players, "I don't think you should try out this year." And, he wasn't wrong. And as hard as it was to take, it was the right thing, and it allowed her to focus. Back when I played, they were like, "Oh, all right, you got to miss a game because you went into playoffs for basketball or whatever." Fine. It's so much different, so much more competitive. And there's so many more female athletes there now that when I went, I mean, I'm old, I'm 50. So, it's how it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different landscape. And that kind of brings me into my next point. Like, even Mia, you were saying you played softball, you played hockey. Obviously hockey became the priority, but do you feel like that sometimes you see athletes that at such a young age, it's hockey. Like you said, you started at 6, but it's just, nope, it's travel hockey. It's summer hockey. It's hockey. Have you ever run across the players that, like, by the time they get into that high school level, by the time they get into college, that they've just been doing hockey for the last 15 years and only hockey, that they just kind of get burnt out? They just kind of lose their passion for the game, as opposed to some players who, all right, they do soccer, then hockey, then softball. They do that multi-sport level. But then when they finally, like you did, when you finally get to that junior, senior year, okay, then you start focusing on that because you want to play at the next level.
Yeah, I honestly think a lot of my teammates at Yale were multi-sport athletes in high school. And I think it helps a lot because, like, nowadays when you see 8-year-olds and all they're doing is playing hockey all year round, I'm like, that's going to get old. Like, everybody knows it. Because even now, after our season, especially in college, because you do so much, we're like, okay, let's take a break. Like, I'm not going to skate for a couple months, right? And I think if you do that for years and years and years and you just keep going with one thing, like, the kids are going to get sick of it. It's so easy to get sick of something, right? And if you're doing it every day, especially with hockey, like, the fun part is the games. Nobody likes training. It's not fun. You train to get good for the games, right? So if you're just training your whole life and occasionally, like, yeah, you have a season, you play a game, but most of the time you're not in season, right? It's probably half the year you are, half the year you aren't. That much training, you're going to burn out because nobody, I mean, even me, like, I don't like the summer. I don't like to train. I do it because I want to be better. But yeah, I think kids need to play other sports. Like, it always worked out for me playing softball because, I thought about hockey in the summer. I would do clinics and I would go to the gym, but It wasn't anything crazy, especially in high school. It's different now that I'm in college, but in high school, I would skate once a week. I would maybe go to the gym, probably not, but I would mostly just be playing softball, right? I mean, it's high school, who cares? So I don't know. I think that was a really good balance for me. And I know a lot of the girls on my team played soccer and other sports. So
I think they need a mental break too. I think you're so focused on one thing. And, being a goalie, it's an emotional sport. And I've seen the emotions from her out of it. And I think then you get to softball and you're like, oh, this is just fun. Very competitive. She is. But, it's a different kind of sport. It's like your fun sport, your outlet.
Yeah, I always called it that. I always called softball my fun sport.
No, absolutely. You have to have those. And for me, it was always soccer was my serious sport, and track and field was track and field for 4 years until I got, I butted heads with my coach senior year. So I switched to tennis. I still to this day am a horrible tennis player, but a lot of my close friends were on the team. I got up to second doubles, but it was, you trained, you tried, you were competitive, but okay, cool. Yeah. If I make second doubles, great. If I don't, I'm here to have fun. There's a great way. You need that. You can't go into every single day serious. You're gonna get burnt out. Now, talking about that, let's talk a little bit about, because I see you've got good resume in high school, in the Regals. I mean, some big championships that you've won. 1920 sectional champions for Williamsville, and then was it state runner-up that year?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. Now, with the Regals and high school, did they intersect at all, or was it? I see Mom smiling, so they must have intersected a lot.
Yeah, they intersected, and for girls hockey, at least when I played, I think it's still pretty much the same. The high school was the lower level league, and then the travel teams were higher level. So I think it's the opposite in some situations for the boys. So yeah, it definitely overlapped. It was the same season. And when I played for the Regals, we didn't do split season or anything like that, because the girls high school league was just starting. It was just, the teams were coming up. The talent wasn't there, at least then. I don't know if it is now. So honestly, it overlapped a lot. And I played for the school 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then I ended up not playing for school sophomore and junior year of high school, because I just wanted to focus on the Regals, because it was that higher level. And I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right things, especially being committed to Yale. I didn't want to risk anything playing at a lower level, especially as a goalie. I think it's a little bit different. So I ended up taking a break from high school hockey. And then senior year, like I mentioned before, we ended up losing early. We still played a season, but for travel, but we weren't a competitor for states or nationals or anything like that. I don't know. It was a really weird situation how that worked out. So I ended up playing school hockey again, because I was like, why not? And that's when we ended up going to states in Lake Placid. And that was actually a really good experience. But yeah, it was different levels. And so I always centered my training and my focus around the Regals. And then if I was playing school hockey, it was more of a secondhand focus for me.
That had to have been a tough decision, though, to make that decision where you're going to, even though you did it for all the right reasons, you did it because you wanted to get better, you wanted that higher level competition, but that still had to have been a tough decision, telling a lot of your high school friends, hey, listen, I'm backing off this a little bit. I'm competitive for the Regal. Did you ever get any hard feelings from anybody, or was everybody
I think there was probably some judgment and some, oh, she thinks she's better than us, probably something like that. But what are you going to do? I was trying to play D1 hockey, right? So sometimes you got to put feelings aside. But other than that, the people who were important to me supported it, so I didn't really mind.
Her high school coach came and watched her play in Canada, even though she wasn't playing for him. So he was super great. So
I was gonna say, so he was really supportive. He's like, yeah, I get it, I understand. Because not always, you don't always get those coaches that understand and get it. It's always, well, what are you doing for me? Well, I'm the reason you're here. You got to play for me. So it's good that you had that coach that got it, that understood.
Shout out to Rick Hopkins.
Yeah, he was great. He is honestly one of the best people. He is a great person. And so he was fully supportive of anything. I probably could have told him, hey, I'm going to quit and go play basketball forever. And he would have been like, I wish you the best of luck. Like he honestly was a great guy, and he was great. And even when I came back, like no hard feelings for when I left, nothing at all. So it worked out well that way.
Mom, that's got to make you feel just great.
Yeah,
He has coaches like.
Yeah. And we see him once in a while. He still asks about her, and yeah, he's just a good person. I think he just retired from Williamsville schools too. He started actually the women's hockey league in Williamsville, so pretty cool guy.
That's awesome. And that's another thing, like you said, when you first started, like high school girls hockey really kind of wasn't non-existent, but was really at its infancy level. Over the last couple years, or even over your career, like how have you seen, not necessarily women's hockey at high school, but just women's hockey in general? Like, how have you both kind of seen the sport really grow, and where do you see it going?
I mean, I think it's just been going uphill ever since I started. I don't know if it's my generation or if it's just society as a whole just accepting women's sports and supporting them. But yeah, ever since I started, I've seen more people playing, more people saying that their kids play, saying that their daughter wants to play in college and all this stuff. And I just think like the awareness around it and the accessibility of it is huge right now, especially in Bow. I think we have a really good hub for women's hockey, and Canada, like anything in Ontario. I think it's just been growing nonstop, which is awesome. Like I love to see it. And especially like now with the PWHL, like there's something, because when I was going to college, I was like, well, I'm just going to go for college and there's nothing to do after that. Like there's nowhere I can go from there for hockey. And now I think it's great that kids that are looking to play in college can also like be a professional women's hockey player. Like that's awesome. I never had that chance growing up to be like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Oh, I want to play professional women's hockey, because there wasn't any, and now there is, and I think it's awesome. So I really hope that continues to grow and the league does well.
Absolutely. And I mean, Kari, you can attest to this. I mean, they're just women's sports in general. A lot of times back in the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s, it was an afterthought. Yep. In a lot of, whether it was women's basketball, women's hockey, women's whatever. It was, the women's basketball team did well. Okay, but how'd the men's team do? Or, the women's soccer team, they did all right, whatever. But how'd the men's do? It was always an afterthought. I mean, talk a little bit about that. And I really do feel like over the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years in particular, there's been huge jumps in women's sports.
Yeah, and I will tell you, like, I remember playing in high school and my first year in college for soccer. We got the boys' hand-me-down jerseys, which, don't fit the right way. Already smelled, but, it was interesting. And then my first year in college, we could never use the weight room if the football team was in there. Sorry, my husband played football there, but you had to wait. It was just bizarre. If what do you call the room with the ice? Oh my gosh, the training room, if it was filled with football guys, you waited. I probably could have an arm hanging off. Things are so much different now. I look at Mia's locker room and my goodness, like it's amazing. She is a trainer. Like for when her team is on the ice, there is a trainer on the bench. Like that was never heard of. So just that alone it's made great strides. So that's really great to see.
Yeah. I mean, as a coach, I've coached guys sports, guys soccer, girls soccer. Lately for me, it's been a lot of girls soccer, which it's a different dynamic. It's a different sport, but it's awesome to see that the recognition that girls sports are getting. Like sometimes there'd be times where we'd have a really successful girls season and we'd be lucky to get an announcement made over the loudspeaker, in some of my earlier careers. Now it's, last year we won the sectional title and they had, ceremonies. We got, it was great. It was great to see the school spirits. It was great to see the community get around women's sports. And I agree. I think it's only on an upward trajectory. And I can't wait to see what the future entails. And Mia, that kind of brings us to it. Do you see yourself, I don't know, 5-6 years, couple years down the road, do you see yourself getting involved in hockey as a coach, whether it's little league, whether it's high school, whether it's collegiate? Do you see yourself coaching?
Yeah, I don't know. How do I word this? I don't plan on coaching, but I'm also not opposed to coaching. Like if it ends up working out for me, with everything else that I'll have going on in the future and I get to coach, I would love to do it, especially like maybe having like all-female goalie clinics, something like that, like being a goalie coach for just the girls, because I've always, coming up playing hockey here, I've always had to do my clinics with with boys, which obviously is not a bad thing. Like, I don't mind playing with the boys, but it would be cool to just have a female-based goalie clinic. You know, that's not something that we have right now in Buffalo. So yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it if it ends up working out and lining up right. Could happen.
I think you were always the only girl at those goalie clinics because she couldn't drive yet, so we had to drive her. And she used to have to get changed in the janitor's closet. That was her locker room. Yeah, she was the only girl. That's right.
Yeah.
Did you find out throughout your career you had mostly male coaches, or was it kind of a split? Was it?
I think every team I'd been on, the head coach was male, and then usually there would be female assistant coaches. But I've never played for a female head coach.
Really?
Yeah.
No, and none of the stops. There was no female head coach.
Nope.
Not for you. No.
Wow. That's that's another thing that I've seen too, is you're seeing a lot more female coaches, whether it's female in female sports or even, coaching the men's teams, which I think is great. I mean, it's not to say that men should coach men and women should coach women. I think whoever's out there the best qualified to handle the team and handle the situation should be given the job. And I mean, again, I know for the fact that sometimes there's unfortunately females that have, well, we're going to regulate you as the assistant coach and give it to the male, even though the female is like 20 times more qualified in the sport to coach than the male. I mean, I feel like it's happening less and less.
For you to say that. Yeah.
No, I do. I feel like it's happening less and less.
Yes.
And I'm not going to call out any school like, oh, this happened here, but I know that it's happened. I've seen it happen, and it's awful when it happens.
Yep, agreed.
But I mean, the good news is I do see it happening fewer and fewer. So hopefully we finally get rid of that malarkey. But let's talk a little bit about getting into the collegiate level. Now you're not done. You're playing next year, correct? You're playing at Sacred Heart, I think you were telling me?
Yep, one more year.
First of all, how did that come? Was it something that Sacred Heart reached out to you? Did you know you were going to them and you reached out to them? Like, how did the recruitment for your master's playing one more season go?
Yeah, so basically I realized that I ended up having a red shirt, not having played my freshman year at all, technically redshirted. And, senior year came around and I kind of fell in love with the sport again. Like my mom said, I kind of had a little bit of a 180 attitude-wise, physicality-wise. I think I played a lot better this year due to the attitude change, right? But yeah, so I kind of ended up falling in love with the sport again. And I was like, well, I don't want to be done now. I just got back into my groove. And so I realized I had a fifth year. I entered the transfer portal, got a little bit of inquiry there, mostly D3. And I was like, yes, I would play D3. Nothing against D3, but going from playing at Yale, the perks that you get at D1, the level of play. I was like, if I end up having to go to D3, I absolutely will. And I would not be upset about that, right? But I was kind of looking to play D1. So by the time I think spring break rolled around, the seasons had all ended, and I knew it was time coaches were going to be looking for those transfers. I ended up emailing a whole bunch of the D1 coaches, including Sacred Heart. I ended up emailing, I think, all of the Connecticut teams just because I'm used to the area. And I was like, why not stay in the same spot? And they had gotten back to me and asked me to go for a visit. And of course I did because it was only like 30 minutes from Yale. So why not? I went for the day, and we had played there earlier in the season. And they have a brand new rink, like 2 years ago, built up from the ground, brand new. And so they kind of showed me around, showed me the facilities, and I was like, wow. Playing at Yale is super cool. It's super historic, the rink is so awesome at Yale, but it's not super updated compared to these new arenas, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So I ended up talking with the coaches a bit, and they had told me that they were talking to a few other goalies, figuring out what their goalies from this past year were going to do, and that they were going to get back to me. And I was like, yeah, totally fine. Understandable. So I think a couple weeks of back and forth went by, and they had said, Mia, we want you to play here next year. And I was like, well, I would really like that, but I need to make sure it makes sense financially for me to play there. So we ended up figuring out the finances part, figuring out all that stuff. I talked to the coaches a little bit more, talked to some of the girls that played there, figured out how the culture is, because I think that's a really big deal, especially for my last year. And it just ended up being the right choice. So yeah, I'm going there for 1 year. I get to get my MBA, so that'll be super nice to have. And yeah, it ended up working out really well.
That's awesome. Again, it's so, and this is going to make me sound super old and whatever. I'm at least 80 or 90. But it's just so refreshing to hear like a young athlete talk that way and just go through the process. It's such a mature way of thinking where you just fall in love with it, but you know that you've got to work on the finances. You know, you've got to deal with this. Even when they said, well, we're looking at a couple other goaltenders, you didn't be like, well, you know, you didn't get upset about it. Yeah, I get it. Cool. No, it's the process. I don't know. It's just more and more where you're starting to see just these diva athletes, guy sports, girl sports. Well, no, if you don't want me, screw you. I'm going to this coach. No, I'm going to transfer here. No, I'm going to transfer here. It's so refreshing as a coach to just see that attitude is still there and that maturity is still there. So great job, Mom.
Yeah, thanks. Dad too.
And it's funny. Every time she's answering that way, like I can see your face and it's just huge smile. And it's like, yep, she said that. Yep, she said that.
Yes,
Yep, that's
she's
my
pretty
daughter.
good.
Now, you talked a little bit about the arena at Sacred Heart being so new, so nice. Has there, not to call out, whatever, you can call out any school you want. Has there ever been an arena, whether it's been at the high school level, Regal level, college level, where you just look at like, ooh, like this is rough?
Too many to name. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, there's definitely been some, especially, I mean, I think we were pretty privileged playing at Yale. Our rink was, I mean, it was super historic. It was super cool. The facilities may be outdated, not anything to complain about, right? We're still playing at the Division I level. We still have access to all of the things we need. Nothing to complain about. But yeah, we definitely, I think our team, we always made a joke about it. We would like rank, 3 worst rinks in the ECAC, right? That was our league. And we would make fun of them, but I mean, I think all of the rinks at the D1 level are pretty nice. I think when you start getting into the newer teams that are entering the league, not including Sacred Heart, because they are one of the more recent teams, those are the rinks where you start to be like, okay, like, you know, this is a public rink that they're using for a Division I hockey team. Like, that stinks. Like, that's not fun. But you don't really judge. I mean, it's not your situation. You're not in it. And you can be like, wow, this rink stinks, but like, we're still playing Division I hockey at this rink. Like, really, who cares where you're playing as long as you're playing? So I don't know. We definitely had some laughs about some of the rinks, but nothing too serious.
Has there ever been a rink that you're like, that you walk in and you're like, ooh, this is like, were you ever like awestruck by like just stepping on the ice or even in the locker room at a rink? Like, wow,
yes. No.
This is nice.
Yeah, some of the rinks in our league are super nice. Like, and honestly, our team did that when we played at the Sacred Heart rink this year. We walked in, we were like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Because I mean, that's probably the newest rink we've seen. I think it was built 3 years ago. So it's the newest rink we've seen. And everyone was like, wow.
And they gave everybody a free crumble cookie that game.
Well, I would have been so old.
Yeah.
I'm like that. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was meant to be.
Can I tell you those crumble cookies? Holy, I swear, I think over the last week I've gained like 5 pounds alone just on those things. Holy cow! I've only had 2 of them. Those things are awesome.
Yeah.
My daughter got me, like, she came out. She's like, I'm gonna get you a crumble cookie. I'm like, okay. I'm like, is this like an Oreo or something? And no, it was not an Oreo.
They're so good.
And they had so many different. Oh, I love crumble cookie.
We got to stop talking about it because I'm gonna have to go if we keep talking about it.
I was gonna say I gotta stop. I can't afford to talk about it.
Yeah.
Now, Kari, kind of same question. Was there ever any rink, like, just as a parent walking in, like, ooh, this is comfy, this is cool. Like, I wish, like was there ever did you have your top rink and your worst rink going in?
Sacred Heart definitely up there. And there's this like giant bell in the one end of the rink. And I don't know why. Did they ring it when they scored? I don't even know. But it's like a giant bell that you pull. And of course, you know, my husband had to ring it. And then was Ohio State where the finals were? Where was that?
Penn State.
Penn State. That was pretty
cool.
Pretty nice. Shocking. I probably shouldn't say that, but Mercyhurst played at like a community rink. It was like it was nice, but it was super small. And considering like it was Mercyhurst, I thought it would be beautiful. But I think they're getting a new rink, correct? But yeah, I was a little shocked by that one. But yeah, the top 2 probably were Penn State and Sacred Heart.
That's awesome.
Don't count out Yale though. It's old, it's beautiful. They call it the Whale, so you know, original wood ceiling. Like, I mean, it's like nothing you've ever seen if you haven't been in it.
And honestly, sometimes, like, to me, and Mia, you're way too young to know a game like in the Odd. But to me, there was nothing better than going to a Sabres game in the Odd. I mean, I just remember the first time, like, I mean, as a kid, we would go there a lot. My dad would take us, and every hit sounded like the boards were so beat up, but every hit sounded like a thunderous body check. And then I remember going to the first game at the new arena when it opened up, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is nice. But just hearing the atmosphere, like, wow, this sounds different. Like, this is wimpy. Like, this is, so there's definitely always something to be had, especially, I feel like, especially in a game like hockey, where it's just, everything is tradition. Everything is like old school, like this and that. I don't know. To me, there's nothing better than, now again, it's a classic rink, not a beat up rink, but a classic.
Yes.
Now we talked about best and worst hockey moment or hockey arenas. What was in your playing career, and Mom, you can answer this too, but what was your, like, I guess, highlight and low light? Like, what was your, like if you could only relive one game, whatever level it was, whether it's college, high school, travel, anything lower, like if you could relive one game, one experience, like what was your pinnacle experience in your career? Not that your career is done so far to date.
Oh God, I don't know. One game, my best game. There was definitely one game in high school. It was pretty awesome. We actually ended up losing it 1-0, I think. I can still see the goal, don't worry. But I just, like, it was nationals in California, and I think, like, I played really well, and we were playing the best team in the country. I think
high school?
Yeah, Shattuck in nationals. I think they ended up winning nationals that year. And I think it was one of my best games that I've ever played. But probably tying that experience, the game I played at Yale senior year, the one start I had at Yale, it was probably the craziest game that anyone on my team has ever seen in their lives, right? And it was against Robert Morris in Pittsburgh. And, I had never started a game. I was obviously a little nervous. And it ended up being a really neck and neck game, which should not have happened, right? We should have 100% probably blown them out of the water. We beat them 8-1 the night before. So it ended up being neck and neck this game. I think it was tied 3-3 with a minute left, and they came down and they scored a goal with 15 seconds left in the game. So they were winning 4-3. Here I am in the net, like, oh my God, the one game I play at Yale, we're going to lose. Are you kidding me? Right? Like, I was like, oh my God, this can't be happening. But like, then I was like, well, if it does, who really cares? But also, come on, are you kidding? But so then they dropped the puck. We pulled the goalie. I had gone to the bench. I didn't even look because I was still skating to the bench. I wasn't looking. We went down, scored a goal. I get to the bench. All my teammates are like, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, what happened? Like, I missed it. So we ended up scoring a goal, tying the game with 5 seconds left. Overtime. There ended up being a breakaway against me in overtime, and I saved it barely, right? So that was crazy. And then we ended up going down and scoring like a minute later, and it was just, it was crazy. Like, everyone was on the edge of their seats. My goalie partner, who I mentioned before, who played pretty much every game our whole time there, she was like, that was one of the most stressful games of my life. And I was like, tell me about it, right? I was in net. Everyone was, and it was so awesome when we won. Like, everyone was so happy. Everyone was so excited for me. And it was just like, it was crazy, but it was awesome.
Well, that's awesome. Now, Mom, did you and your husband get to go to that game?
Yeah, and actually it was close. Well, my sister went, my nephews, my cousins. I think we had 12, 15 people there because it was close. Awesome. Yeah, we had a whole section. The Wendells, they're not quiet, and we travel in packs,
Wait, you're always so calm and laid back at school.
Yes, I am.
I didn't realize you were talkative.
No, not at all.
Now, Mom, how about you? What was like one standout moment, like where you're in the stands, you tear up, you're like, oh my God, like I can't believe, like what's one moment?
Boy, well, there's a couple of
that you can think of.
I think actually one of this is terrible. My memory is terrible. We were in Canada. My husband wasn't there, and it was when you played on the Rollins team and you actually lost. You had like 3 breakaways on you that day. So she's in net. I'm minding my business at the end, and they lost. Mia played out of her mind, stood on her head. The one girl, I think she had 3 breakaways on Mia that game, and Mia stopped 2 of them and let one in. But Mia played amazing. She said, wow, Mom, did you see all the scouts there? I'm like, scouts. I don't know anything about, she's in high school. I have no idea. And she's like, look at the boards. And, you look and there's all these clipboards and probably, not kidding, 15 scouts watching that game. And I'm like, oh, no, I had no idea. I don't pay attention. And that was the game that they saw Mia. Yale saw Mia. They're actually watching somebody else. And then they followed her to Michigan a couple weeks later or something like that. And that's kind of when it all happened. But I remember that game because she lost, but Mia she played amazing. So, and that's how they saw her. It was just right place, right time. Yeah, right place, right time. So
that's awesome. And in sports, sometimes that's all it takes. It's, just being at the right place, the right time, having the right person see you. And next thing you know, the rest is history.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Listen, I feel like we could just keep going on and on and on. So we definitely have to have you two back again. I don't know about you. This has been fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Before we get into our hot seat question, I want to talk a little bit about the mental side, especially of playing goal. How difficult, or did you find it difficult to really, like, before a game, to really get into that headspace, to like really just get locked in? And did you have like any sort of superstitions or any sort of like routine, like I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this? Like, talk a little bit about the mental side and just getting yourself locked in especially before like a big game.
Yeah, I mean, I was always pretty good with that. Basically just put my headphones in if it was in high school for the car ride. Didn't talk to my parents really, just went in all business. Maybe would like chit chat with my teammates for a minute or two, and then headphones in, not talking to anyone, just listening to music, thinking about the game, doing my hand-eye warm-up. And then in high school, I didn't warm up with my team. I warmed up by myself because I wanted to make sure I was doing the right stretches and, getting my quickness going and everything. And sometimes, especially in high school, the girls didn't care as much as me, most of them. I mean, some of them went D1, but a lot of them didn't play college or they played at a lower level. So they were just kind of having fun. And I was all business. Like, I would get mad if people were like messing around, right? But it's high school. Looking back, I should have just been like, whatever. So, I would kind of keep to myself, be quiet. And then I would like get ready with the team, get dressed with the team, but still just kind of staying focused. So I was pretty good about that. I feel like if you know yourself and you know how you need to prepare, it's easy to do. So I ended up figuring it out pretty early on.
I remember you always had a racquetball, and I remember one game you lost or couldn't find it, and we actually had to go buy them on the way because she was like, I have to warm up with a racquetball. And I'm like, okay. So, here we are before a game running to the store getting a racquetball.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's one thing that I always found interesting about the goalie position, and in any sport, whether it's hockey, soccer, lacrosse, it always seemed like it was a different animal for a goaltender warming up or getting in that headspace. I know me, when I'd warm up on the soccer field, I mean, I'm doing my stretches, but I'm sitting there chit-chatting with everybody, goofing around, keeping everybody loose. Even when I was captain, I'm doing this stuff, but I'm sitting there like, all right, kind of getting myself amped up. But at the same time, just, I don't want to say goofing around because I wasn't goofing around, but just getting myself in that, making sure that everybody else was amped up. But then you always would look at the goaltender and they're always by themselves, or they're always doing their own stretches. They're always like with a coach and not with their team, like just warming up. I always found that it's just a different position, a different mindset, a different animal. And I don't think a lot of people realize if your goaltender, whatever the sport is, you're almost out there on your own separate island. I mean, you have your teammates in front of you. They have your back. When worst comes to worst, sometimes in goaltender, the position is you're either the hero or you're not. You're either making the huge save, or especially in overtime, you're either making the huge save or, oh, you should have had that when it, like, even if there was an impossible save, but you should have saved that. I don't think people just realize how brutal of a position it really is, no matter the sport.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of what played into my mentality and my like way that I prepared to. Because once you realize like, hey, if you're off, if you're not focused, if you're, goofing around too much before a game, you let in a goal. Like that's a big deal. You can't afford to be making mistakes like that. So it's almost more worth it to sacrifice maybe like the laughter and the fun time you'll have with your teammates, you know, preparing and getting ready and going through the warm-ups and everything together. It's almost worth the sacrifice to just be even more ready for the game.
Oh yeah. And especially as a captain, I mean, even when I was out there playing, I knew better to not go near my goaltender. And if some of the younger players would go up, no, stay away. Like, nope, let him do his thing. You just know not to ignore them. And in fact, I'm going to share a story real quickly about a really great friend of mine, Rob Udy. He was our high school goaltender. This was our senior year of high school. We had a scrimmage game, just inter-squad scrimmage, and he had literally the day before had his wisdom teeth pulled. So he had all 4 of his wisdom teeth pulled. And during practice, we're like, Rob, just sit out, relax. It's just practice. Nope, I'm going to scrimmage. Nope, I'm going to scrimmage. So we get into the game. We mix up varsity and JV that day, and I'm shooting against Rob. And of course, I get free right at the top of the 18, and I rip a shot. And where does it hit him? But right in the mouth. Hits him in the jaw, and it was like a Rocky movie where you see like the boxer take the punch and just blood squirt out. I thought I killed him. I'm like, oh my God, he's dead. He goes down, like blood is everywhere. He like pops up. He's like, all right, I'm good. I'm like, no, you're not good. The coach comes running over. The coach is like just get out. Like, oh my, it was one of the worst experience. But at the same point, like, I just remember feeling like, sorry. And he's like, it's fine. And then afterwards, I just remember like, we told you not to practice. Like, what the hell were you even doing? Like, getting mad at him. I mean, it was just,
Takes a to be a goalie.
I always say you've got to be the smartest, but let's be honest. And Mia, you got to be a little crazy to be a goaltender. Right? All right. All right, so we're going to get into our hot seat questions. I explained this a little bit to you before we started, but this is basically, it's going to be 5 questions. I'll start where we'll each answer the questions, but then you guys, whenever you want to come in with a question you have. And again, this can be literally about anything. Doesn't have to be about sports. In fact, I'm a good old Italian boy. I love food. So I'm going to make the first question about food. What is a meal that just reminds you of home? Like, this is like, oh my God, like wherever you are, and especially Mia, with you being on your road trips, whatever, wherever you are, when you see this food, you're like, oh, this instantly just brings me back home. Like for both of you, for me, it's anytime, and I'll do this, especially since my grandnonna passed away a couple years ago, but anytime I feel nostalgic, I'll fry up some peppers and get some nice bread, Italian bread from DiCamello's. I'll make a nice fried pepper sandwich, a little either salami on there, superzata, something, or sometimes just with the peppers. That instantly just brings me back home. That instantly just brings me back to my nonna's house when she was cooking for us and everything. So that's one meal for me. Like for both of you, what's one meal that just really transports you back to home?
Well, I have 2. I'd say meatloaf just reminds me of home because it can never compare to my mom's meatloaf, which is the best ever. Okay. So anytime I see that, I think about home, but it's still not the same. And then I'd say anytime I have steak and mashed potatoes, because that's always my staple meal. Whenever I come home for a break, I always have to have steak and mashed. Dad makes such good steak and my mom makes such good mashed potatoes. So anytime I have that, I'd say it reminds me of home.
I would say
Kari, what about you?
Beef stew. My mom, she showed me how to make it. We've all tried to make it with her. It still doesn't taste the same. And goulash. My mom used to make great goulash, and there's probably a bunch, but those are probably my top 2.
Okay, that's great. And for me, it's the same thing with spaghetti sauce. Like no matter, I mean, my nonna taught me how to make it. My mom taught me how to make it. Everybody's got their own spin. And no matter how much you try to like, she told me it was this. She told me it was this. You can never recreate it exactly the same. You can never recreate it. And I don't know about you, but when I cook, like I can tell you what I put in the stuff that I'm making. I can't tell you, oh, it's a teaspoon of salt or this. It's just, you throw in a little of this, a little of that, a touch of this. It's just you're throwing what you throw in. I would say, as you see when I'm talking with my hands, you do this, you do this, you do this. It's a sign of a true Italian. We're talking with your hands.
My question.
All right. Good question. I have always coached with a fedora for as long as I can remember. I've always coached. Even back in the day when I coached bowling, I'd be in the bowling alley with a fedora. I've had this question asked before. I really don't know why. I remember starting off One of my first years coaching, I coached Little League soccer at Fort Niagara. I think I was 20, somewhere around there. I was doing it during the summer, during my off season. My grandfather always had a fedora on. My nonna always had a fedora. And I remember he gave me a fedora a couple months before I started. And I was getting ready to leave the house, getting ready to leave my college apartment, driving down. And it just happened to be on the table. And I was like, that kind of looks cool. Just wore it. Had a number of parents like, oh, that's a nice hat, isn't it? And it just stuck. So just always kind of wore the fedora. Yeah, and it was funny this past year at Wheatfield. The girls started they do an MVP after every game, and they made an MVP fedora. So they had a red fedora, they decorated it or whatever. So whoever won the MVP that day would get to wear the MVP fedora until the next game. I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of continuing that question, as for you guys, was there any staple that you had as a player or as a coach? Like, I've got to wear this, I've got to wear that. Like, I always call it coaching with style. Is there anything that you had coaching or playing with style?
I don't think I did. I'm trying to think if I even had superstitions of things I had to wear. I don't think so. What about you?
I mean, I always had cool pads. I feel like that's a big thing in hockey, especially for goalies.
True. I was gonna say, I feel like pads, and then did you ever have the mask decoration?
Yeah.
What was your best helmet decoration on there?
Oof.
Or design?
Well, I liked in high school. I made mine American flag based in high school, so I thought those were really cool. And then once I got to college, I mean, obviously they had to be Yale based. I really like the one that I have now. It's got a picture of the rink on the side of it called the Whale, and then I think it's got, what does it even have? Maybe a big Y over here, and then it's got the crest on the top, the school crest. So I think that one's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I know for goaltenders that's huge. Now, do you actually design it yourself, or do you just
my dad usually helps me a lot with it. He's good with that stuff.
That's awesome. All right, so good question to start. All right, so Mia, I think you're up. What's a question you have for all three of us here?
Oh God, favorite destination in the world?
For me, I mean, shocker here, the Italian is going to say Italy.
I thought you'd say anywhere the Bills are playing is what I thought you'd say.
Listen, wherever I don't know if I can afford going to the Super Bowl, but I will be in the city whenever the Bills get to the Super Bowl. I was looking, holy cow, they're like 6, 7, 8, 9,000. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Like, great, but I am a teacher. So
we had a friend who sold his car so he could get the season tickets.
Did he really?
Yeah,
wow.
He walks to work.
Hey, he's getting his steps in. No, for me, it was the dream trip. For me was we did this 6 years ago. I finally went to Italy. We did Rome, Florence, Cinque Terre. We've been back twice since. In fact, we're going again this summer. So we started off. We did like northern Italy. We did the central, and now we're doing southern, which is closer to my family's from Calabria. So we're getting to see Calabria. We're getting to see Puglia, more the southern Italy. So that's my dream destination. I mean, I love it. How about you girls? Say, you got to answer your own question.
I've been pretty much everywhere in the United States. On my bucket list is actually where her other goalie's from. I want to say Latvia, but that's Slovenia. I want to go to Slovenia, somewhere over there.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been to a bunch of places, but I really want to go to like Norway or even like Greece. Greece looks like it would be a lot of fun and super pretty. Places like that.
That'd be fun. All right, so next question, kind of on a similar note, and you two can answer this together, or you can give separate answers. Best family vacation that you can remember?
We travel a lot. I know what mine is. What's yours?
I liked our trip out west.
Yep, I was going to say the same thing. So we did a trip out west. You can YouTube it if you want to. Wendell family vacation. And then we're doing it again this summer, actually. But my husband and I are driving it. The girls are flying to Denver and meeting us halfway.
And it's a little different. We're going further west this time and up into like Lake Tahoe, which should be super cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's all. Also, you did the first time you did the road trip on it. You road tripped it out west.
We did Wyoming, South Dakota, Colorado, and then looped back. And now we're going further. We're going to like Arizona, Nevada, California.
That's awesome. Now there has to be some fun road trip stories like out there. Like do either of you have like a favorite road trip story? Like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Or, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. Like there's always a fun road trip story.
I mean, like, I don't know, the first leg out west, the first time I just bought a minivan. And I think we made our first hotel stop and I got a flat tire. I'm like, are you kidding me? And there was a nail sticking through my tire. And it was our first stop. I think it was Minnesota. Yeah, that was like, really? I can't believe that happened. What else? I mean, all the animals you see are pretty cool.
Yeah, we pulled over, saw a pack of wolves. We saw a bear. I don't know, what else?
We saw elk. like literally right next to the car.
Yeah.
Like it's just so different. Oh, I know one. We were in Yellowstone and you can swim in any fresh water in any state park. And it was clear as could be. And we're just walking through the water, checking things out. And a moose, my youngest daughter was probably like 7 at the time. She goes, oh, look, there's a deer. And we turn around, there's a moose just like walking through the water. I'm like, we're going to slowly come out of the water. But I mean, it was wild. It was, 50 yards from us. It was really awesome.
That's fantastic. Oh, all right. Who's up with the next question? I feel like we got 2 more, 3 more, some more. I don't know. We're just making this up as we go along.
Trying to think. Prediction Bills season.
Okay. I'm going to say 14-3. I'm going to say they finally get the number 1 seed. And I'm going to say, I feel badly because I don't like it when I'm like predicting them to win the Super Bowl. But I'm saying if not this year, then when? Like it's got to be done. And please, just one. That's all I want. Mia, you didn't have to live through the 90s, the wide right, the 4 straight Super Bowls. We're going to get it this. Nope. We're going to get it this year. Nope. We're going to get it that. Nope. Just one, please. Say just one.
Yeah.
What are your guys' predictions?
I think we're gone. I think you feel the same way. This is it. And Keon, who I'm going to adopt one day, he's going to come through this year.
I was going to say, that was going to be my question. Favorite player. We'll go a 2-part. Favorite player on the current Bills and favorite Bill of all time.
Favorite player right now for me is Keon. I think he is just a really neat, interesting person to listen to. Favorite Bill all time? Maybe Glenn Parker. He was friends with my sister. And I remember once we were at the Odd Club and I was in high school and some gross guys were like hitting on me. And he's like, get away from my sister. And he like scared him off. It was awesome.
I like Josh Allen, probably all time. I really like Dalton Kincaid right now.
Okay. So all-time Bill, Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid.
Probably, yeah.
Hey, okay. For me, current Bill, I got to say Josh Allen. I just love what he's done with the team.
Yeah.
But all-time, in fact, my first ever soccer number was number 78, Bruce Smith.
Yeah.
I loved him as a player. I remember we got to one of my first travel teams that I was on. We got to pick our number, and the coach was like, "What number do you want?" And everybody's picking soccer numbers, like number 1, number 10, number 11. He comes to me, he's like, "All right, what number do you want?" I'm like, 78. He's like, "What the hell are you picking 78 for?" Usually, if you go any higher than like 24, you're like reaching. I'm like, I like Bruce Smith, so I was I was number 78 on our travel team, and it was awesome.
Cool.
All right. One last question. We'll keep it simple and easy. Favorite movie?
Go for it.
Mamma Mia.
Okay.
Probably, anything that has to do with Christmas. So you can include all Hallmark movies in that. Probably, I'd say An American President's up there.
Okay.
Or any Adam Sandler.
Hey, they're coming out with the new Happy Gilmore. Did you see that?
I saw that.
That should be funny. I'm going to choose 2. I'm going to choose, again, typical Italian. He's going to choose The Godfather. But I'm going to say all 3. Then Animal House. We're going way old school here. I love Animal House. I was going to say, I'd be shocked if Mia knows.
Do you know what Van Wilder is?
I think
It's
I've
like an
heard of
old,
that.
it's like older than Van Wilder.
Yeah,
Fun.
it's like what Van Wilder tried to rip off.
Right. Fun.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up here. Ladies, thank you so much. Like I said, I feel like we could go on forever. So definitely open invite. Whenever you ladies are ready to come back on, feel free. Kari, just send me a text. Thank you so much for coming back on. Just coming on.
You're welcome.
No problem. Anytime. We're going to wrap things up here. Make sure you guys check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on X, Twitter, whatever it's called now. X, I think. Follow us at Coach Larry 11. And as always, go Bills.